The teller. The teller. The teller.
It's another day. Left jab, right jab. This is MMA. Mixed martial arts, quick body parts. Undefeated when I pick 'em. Who the champ, who the victim? Looking in my crystal ball, I predict the winner. Never stop fighting. If you lose, keep your chin up. Know how the game go. I'm a smart fella. Welcome to the show. This the MMA fortune teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller.
What's going on, everybody? UFC 254. You guys know what time it is. The lightweight championship is on the line. Khabib Nurmagomedov taking on Justin Gaethje. You know, in my opinion, this matchup here is one of the most skilled matchups in the lightweight division that we've ever seen. Two of the most highest caliber of opponents in the division facing off. You know, maybe above these two, I would say, the Khabib versus Conor matchup may have been the two most skilled lightweight fighters to ever square off. There's some other notable matchups that were up there. Maybe Khabib versus Dustin Poirier. Maybe Benson Henderson versus Anthony Pettis back in their day. You know, when Anthony Pettis was in his prime. The jiu-jitsu was spectacular from him. He could strike. Those were some of the highest caliber lightweight matchups that I think I've ever seen. And this is right up there at the top. So, of course, Gaethje has been looking amazing. We're going to be getting into that fight here later. You guys know the deal. And Khabib hasn't fought in over a year, but this guy is, in my opinion, the greatest lightweight to have ever done it, and also may be the best pound for pound fighter to have ever done it, in my opinion. I mean, he's right up there. So very excited to talk about that fight a little bit later. And we got the card here. We will be getting to the first fight here in a second, but you guys know the routine. We got to talk about the card that just took place this past Saturday. The Korean Zombie versus Brian Ortega. It was a hell of a fight, man. Brian Ortega looked very good. We'll get to that fight here in a second. Before we even get into the bets, I had two bets. As a lot of you guys already know, it was another profitable night for the teller, so it's always great when you could say that. And I will touch upon each fight here as we work through, and I'll let you guys know what my bets were. Said Nurmagomedov took out Mark Stragel, finished him in the first round, and obviously the line was pretty high in Said, so I guess that was the right play there. If you guys had him parlayed or whatnot, but Mark Stragel is a guy. We'll see what the future holds for him. Maxim Grishin took out Antigulov, finished him in the second round. Now, Maxim Grishin was a guy that I threw in a parlay at a 5-unit parlay play. I had to throw Grishin in there. It's not that I'm super impressed with what I've seen from him throughout the years, but it was just a complete fade of Antigulov. So I had to throw him in the mix in my parlay. I'll get to the other leg here in a second. And again, for those of you guys that don't know, I was letting you guys know on Instagram, but I was on the road, was traveling a little bit, so was not able to put the fight companion together and whatnot. But if you guys were following me on my Instagram story, I tried to communicate with you guys there on Saturday night. I was watching the fights on my phone, actually. Luckily, nowadays with the technology we have, I could just pull up the fights and watch them live on my phone. So Faraz Zaim pulled off the victory over Jamie Mullarkey. I saw a lot of people saying that they thought that fight was close and Mullarkey should have won the fight. I think that was a bunch of malarkey. I think that Faraz Zaim deserved to win that fight, and I had him to win that fight. I'm impressed with that kid. He's young, and I think that he's going to be hanging around. I said that. Jun Young Park was able to pull off the victory over John Phillips. Not too many people were surprised there. Jillian Robertson pulls off the victory. Again, stringing off victories in the octagon. Jillian Robertson is a very tough customer. We had the Georgian fighter Garam, who won the split decision over the very, very highly touted prospect in Mateusz Gamrot, the Polish fighter. So, that was Gamrot's first loss. We'll see how he bounces back. Jonathan Martinez took out Thomas Almeida. Long layoff for Thomas Almeida, and we saw that played a factor there. Almeida didn't look that good there. James Krause was one of my possible plays I was going to put together, but I did hesitate on that. Everybody that I work with, that I was talking to a lot of you guys. I'll let you guys know that it would have paid out, but Krause didn't look overly impressive there. It was a tough fight for him. taking the fight on short notice. And it looks like Krause is really just set on being an MMA coach. That's what he's planning on doing. They were asking him at the press conference when we'll see him fight again, and he said, his fighters come first. He's putting himself second. He's all about coaching. So a shout out to James Krause. I think he's going to be one of the best MMA coaches that's ever done it when it's all said and done. This guy's been doing wonders with his fighters. Jimmy Crute was the other leg in my parlay, the 5-unit parlay that I put together with Grishin. I thought that Jimmy Crute was going to be way too much for Bukauskas, and I feel that I hit that on the head, man. And Jimmy Crute didn't even get to show how great he would have looked if this fight would have hit the mat. And he has very good BJJ. I thought that was a fight that was his all day. You saw, man, when he walked in there, he was just on another level. He was way more comfortable in there. He was taking control of the center of the octagon, throwing bombs, and he knocked out Modestus in a nasty way. So the 5-unit play hit. I got that parlay right around -154 together. So hit that play there, which led my night to be a profitable night. I did lose my other play. I'll get to my play here in a second. As you guys see, it's going to be one of the last 2 fights, which I'm upset that I didn't touch the Jessica Andrade fight, because that was another fight that I hesitated on along with the Krause fight. But Chookagian has been looking good, so I wanted to stay away from that fight. Chookagian's been doing wonders with her game and whatnot, but I did believe Jessica Andrade would be on another level there, and I should have stuck to that thought and made it an official play, but I didn't. And Andrade, once again showing that she's right at the top of her game, man. She's at the top of these divisions. She's only going to lose to the top tier fighters. And then my last play of the night was Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie. I did have a 2.5-unit play on him, and I was very impressed with what I saw from Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega showed to me that he has taken leaps and bounds from the last time we saw him in there. It's been a long time since he's been in the octagon. He's worked on his striking in a major way. I mean, the spinning elbow is beautiful. We know his grappling skills. Ortega is a true threat to the division. You got to love when you see a guy go back to the drawing board and really sharpen up his skills. I thought that the Korean Zombie was going to wear him out on the feet and really start to beat him down in there, and that wasn't the case. Ortega was way more accurate. There was a couple times in that fight towards the beginning where I thought we were going to see the Korean Zombie start to take over, but it was not the case, especially after he got dropped with that elbow. You could tell when you were watching the fight, and even the Korean Zombie said it later on. He didn't even remember those later rounds. He was on cruise control. He was very hesitant, but big shout out to Brian Ortega. Even though he cost me some money, man, you got to love watching guys perform like that and continuously progress and be a true threat to the title. So shout out to Ortega. But it was another profitable night. Profited roughly 1 unit on the night. So again, man, that's what it's all about. Even when you're having little misses here and there, still making money on the night, and we're going to capitalize this upcoming Saturday in a major way. I'm expecting to profit over 5-6 units this upcoming weekend. There's a lot of opportunities on the board, and with no further ado, let's get to this upcoming fight card. In the first fight, we got Joel Alvarez taking on Alexander Yakovlev. Joel Alvarez, coming in as the favorite right now. Of course, people always have a short memory. They saw how amazing Joel looked in his last fight, where people were looking at him more so as just the grappling based fighter. All of a sudden, he goes out there, looks very impressive on the feet, has a big frame, 6'3", 77-inch reach. He's gonna have a 3-inch reach advantage here over Yakovlev. Yakovlev is a guy that I like as well. I think that Yakovlev is a very tough fighter. He comes in so lean as well, man. This guy is just, he's all muscle and bones. I became familiar with Yakovlev back when he took out Paul Daly. That's really when he put himself on the map to me. I remember watching that fight. Paul Daly was searching for a promotion to really hang around with after the UFC let him go and whatnot. And he did lose that fight. And Yakovlev he's a tough customer, man. Yakovlev, we've seen him take out guys like Alex De Silva, who looked impressive again in the beginning of his last fight, but did start to fade. Does have cardio issues. Yakovlev was able to hang tough in that fight and get the finish against De Silva. And Yakovlev is a guy that can strike with you. He's going to be hanging tough, and he could also grapple. He's just a very polished fighter. And then again, Joel Alvarez. We take a look at him here. This was the victory that he just had, where he hurt Duffy on the feet and was able to pull off the submission. Definitely has submission skills. Like I said, initially people looked at him as just like more of a grappling based fighter, and don't get it twisted. That's really his main skill set in my opinion. But the striking is coming around, and he's big, and this guy looks good, man. Dangerous fighter. He is a dangerous fighter, and Just want to pull up some stuff on him here. Joel Alvarez. I believe he did come from the... I don't know if I don't remember correctly. Was he on the Ultimate Fighter? I guess he was not actually on that European one. But came in against Damir Ismagulov. Now, Damir is a guy that's serious. So you see that loss there. If you guys aren't familiar with Damir, Damir is a guy that hasn't lost in ages, and he's a serious fighter, the Kazakh fighter. And then since then, took out Danilo Bilardo, and then took out Joe Duffy. So, yeah, man, I think that he looks legit. I'm taking Alvarez to win the fight. I think that he continuously is going to be growing in there. I think that he's going to take that momentum from his last victory against Joe Duffy, and I think he could take out a guy like Alexander Yakovlev. Should win the better of the exchanges on the feet. His grappling's there, but Yakovlev is a tough guy. So, would not be surprised if Yakovlev hangs around in this fight. I mean, this guy has 36 professional fights. He's been locked in there with some real opponents. The Roosevelt Roberts fight was extremely close. Did lose that fight. Roberts is a very talented fighter, even though he's been dropping the ball as of recently. But when Roberts can put it together, he is talented. And that was a very close fight. The guillotine choke over De Silva. And then, of course, he lost to Usman. Usman's the champ. And Zach Cummings is a tough customer as well. And he's been locked in there with some serious guys, man. Damian Maia went to decision with Damian Maia, was able to avoid the submission. So, again, man, this guy is capable, man. He is a capable fighter. And Rashid Magomedov is a very legit fighter. Lost to him in M1. He's over in PFL now. Very legit. And then you see, I mean, this guy wins fights. But again, I'm going to ride with Joel here. And if you take a look at the line, Alvarez is right around a -187. And some money coming in on Yakovlev, actually. So, he opened up a little high. We'll see if Alvarez can keep the ball rolling. I'm going to pick him to win the fight. All right, moving over to the next fight. Got Casey Kenney taking on Nathaniel Wood. Casey Kenney is a guy that I just made some money on, as he just put a absolute beating on Haley Alateng. I had him in a major parlay there. As you guys know, if you've been paying attention, I've been sniping the 2-team parlays. I like to keep them at 2 teams. I consistently try to spread that knowledge to you guys. That's at least how I feel. I'm not a big fan of going to 3 and more, but those 2-team parlays, you can snipe. Sniped Casey Kenney that night. Put on an absolute clinic against Haley Alateng. Casey Kenney has the judo background. I really am a fan of his grappling. I think he's going to continuously show us that he's very capable with his grappling, but his striking, the clinic that we saw him just put on against Alateng with the body kicks, even working the head kick up there too, switching stances, that's something that you really got to pay attention to because he can nullify guys that have strong grappling when he's facing them, and then when the fight takes place in the feet, this is a guy that can really hurt guys in the feet as well and really outpoint them. So, yeah, I've really liked what I've seen from Casey. And then you take a look at his opponent, Nathaniel Wood, the prospect, a very fitting name. A lot of people are high on this guy as well. Looked very good against John Castaneda. Was able to finish him with his grappling. Sometimes you see Wood start off a little bit slow, but, he really starts to put it together. He has that European type style. Fighting out of England. If you guys catch my drift, kind of reminds me of almost like a James Gallagher or something like that. The striking's decent, not too much power, puts that pace on you, tries to get the fight to the mat, and has surprisingly good grappling skills. It's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage here, but it has a 1-inch height disadvantage, so nothing really going on there. I'm on Casey. I'm on my boy Casey, man. He brought the money back. He brought the money in last time. He's right around a -185 right now. Nathaniel Wood is a very capable fighter. This might play out to be an entertaining fight, but I think Casey will be able to keep this fight standing, and I think that Casey Kenney is going to be the better striker here. So I'm taking Casey Kenney to win the fight. All right. Liana, Jojua taking on Miranda, Maverick. Fight taking place in the flyweight division. Jojua just came off a big victory. Excuse me. And, she was an underdog going into that fight, just as she is here. Was able to pull off the armbar submission against Diana Belbita. You guys remember, I think we watched that fight live on the Fight Companion, or I might have been right before I went live, but very impressive armbar. She definitely shows that she has some grappling. She's dangerous on the mat. Not overly impressed with her striking. Miranda Maverick is a girl that she's scrappy in there. She's tough. She can grapple. She can strike. Been decently impressed with what I've seen from her. She's been winning fights. She's 7-2. She's been doing her thing over on the Invicta scene for quite some time now. And her last loss was against Deanna Bennett. girl that a lot of you guys are familiar with, redeemed that loss, finished her in the rematch. It's taking out Shayna Young, Pearl Gonzalez, a tough customer in Pearl. And she's a capable fighter. I think that she should win this fight as long as she doesn't get subbed. I think it plays out similar to Jojua's last fight. I think if Jojua doesn't pull off the submission, I'm not sure if Jojua can really win a decision there. But again, Jojua has shown that she's capable on the mat. And you know how some of these girls' fights go, man. Sometimes they're unpredictable in there. And that was a nice armbar. It really was. And just the way that fight played out was decently impressive from her. Miranda Maverick. Tough customer here. She's out there and she's ready to get it on. We're there on Fight Island. How about those Fight Island events, huh? They've been fun, man. They've been fun. I love when they go out there. So we'll see how that fight plays out. Got her purple belt on over here. And like I said, she's capable on the mat as well. And as far as the line goes, maybe a little high, but she should handle business. Now we got Jung taking on Sam Alvey. Fight is taking place in the light heavyweight division. As we know, Sam Alvey should be fighting in the middleweight division, but he's one of those guys that's kind of like an Ed Herman, constantly delivers. He puts on entertaining fights, win, lose, or draw, and he's just kind of made a name for himself. So he's kind of able to do what he pleases as far as fighting in the light heavyweight division. Does have those counter punching skills, can always counter punch somebody and knock them out. He's taking on Jung, another impressive Korean fighter that's been making a name for himself. Been impressed with Jung. Let's not forget, man, he took out Mike Rodriguez. Not a lot of people are taking out Mike Rodriguez like the way that he did. And that was about 9 months ago. Caught him clean. He has some good boxing. Now Mike Rodriguez is coming off a loss, but as we all know, he did not lose that fight. Should have had the stoppage early in that fight. Eventually, Ed Herman came back and pulled off the. I think he pulled off the Kimura late when they were exhausted. But that was a fight that Mike Rodriguez had the stoppage. That should have been 2 victories for Mike Rodriguez within a month span. So Mike Rodriguez is a dangerous fighter. That was an impressive victory there for Jung. And other than that, he also took out Kiedis Ibrahimov. Not that impressive a victory. You guys know how I feel about him. But the Mike Rodriguez one is, and this is going to be the type of fight where you just can't really have any type of confidence in Sam Alvey. Sam Alvey has absolutely no volume. I've been fading him time after time as of recently. I believe I did have a parlay with Ryan Spahn and somebody. Made some money there. Blitzen Abreu took Abreu straight up in that fight. Jimmy Crute was a major play of mine. So, I've been fading him. I did pick Nogueira to take out Alvey, I believe, as well. Just Alvey, I'm not a fan of his volume. Now, I couldn't imagine having money on a guy like Alvey, even at underdog odds, and you're sitting there waiting for that counter punch, and he's throwing five punches per round. This guy's barely landing, but again, he does have the ability to land one of those counter shots and hurt dudes, and he's very, very capable as far as his skills. This is a guy he's been fighting from back in the day, I believe, with Team Quest, right? Team Quest. This guy's trained with Dan Henderson, all those guys. He's very intelligent in there. He has good fighter IQ. He has excellent takedown defense. He's just, I don't know why, he's just always he's on his back foot, just waiting, giving away rounds, and then if after you land a couple shots, he'll have his little moments there for like a minute where he starts to try to act like he's chasing you and he's trying to fight. Really left that Ryan Spahn fight on the table. That was a fight that he actually should have won when it was all said and done. I don't get me wrong, I had Spahn winning that fight, but that was a fight that he could have won and he should have won. He left it on the table. Spahn did not look good in that fight. But again, Alvey, the lack of volume plays a significant factor into him continuously losing fights. So maybe all of a sudden he goes out there and realizes that, and then all of a sudden you see him throwing volume and this fight plays out closely. But I'm on Jung. I got to take him to win the fight. I think that he'll have a little bit more volume in there and he'll win this fight. And just to give you guys a heads up as well, the MMA Live Discussion, my MMA Live Discussion show that I do Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern, may be on hold for a week or two. We'll see. I got some things going on here. I will keep you guys updated with that, but I do have, a list of fighters that are ready to come on. So as soon as we start picking that up, I'm going to really start trying to get some big names on the show, and we're going to start changing some things up and tweaking things here and there and make it a little bit more polished. But it may be on hold for a week or two, so just hang tight with the MMA Live Discussion show. Maybe we're like on a little break here. The new season will be starting up in a couple weeks, a week or two, like I said. And that's not locked in stone, but it's looking like that. So just to give you guys a heads up there, the Fight Companion should definitely be going down for UFC 254. This is a major event, and that's what I'll probably will be doing moving forward. We'll be doing the Fight Companions for solid events that you guys are excited for, and I know you guys have to be excited for this event here. And moving on to the next bout, we got Alex Cowboy Oliveira taking on the Kazakh fighter Shavkat Rakhmonov. This should be a good fight here, man. The Nomad. Fighting out of Kazakhstan, 12-0. He's undefeated. This guy is a very tough fighter. You guys know Alex Oliveira is a very tough fighter as well. And coming off 2 victories against Peter Sabata and Max Griffin. Alex Cowboy Oliveira is a guy usually comes in, with a good reach and a good height, a height advantage or whatnot. But Rakhmonov is a big fighter as well here. Rakhmonov 6'1". We don't have a reach on him too, but I believe it is a pretty significant reach as well. So he's a solid fighter. He's undefeated. He's coming in as the underdog. Been watching tape on him. From what I've seen, I've seen some fights where he was losing and he came back. He seems like a resilient fighter, a very tough fighter. Seems to have some good grappling. Saw him finish one fight where he was getting beat down in the fight for a little bit. Or maybe I wouldn't say beat down, but he was clearly losing the fight, getting controlled on the mat. Ended up getting a nice body lock slam that he instantly transitioned into a mount and was able to stop the fight there. I think this is a guy that's just an extremely tough fighter, has power in his hands, not extremely skilled or fast in there, but he's one of those types of guys. You know what kind of guys I'm talking about, that they just keep walking forward and they're going to be in there from bell to bell. I give the speed advantage to Alex Cowboy Oliveira. I think he's going to be on his toes, moving in and out with the kicks and whatnot. I think he'll be a little bit more skilled there. But, when the fight hits the later rounds, maybe Rakhmonov may have an edge, but honestly, probably not, because Cowboy Oliveira is a guy that when he shows up, I've seen him time and time again. When he's ready to go and he's feeling good in there, I've seen him look good in the 3rd round as well. So I'm on Cowboy Oliveira here. I think that he's just, like I said, going to be a little bit faster in there, and I'm a fan of his. I think he's a dangerous fighter. I think he's a wild dude. He's quite literally the Brazilian version of Donald Cowboy Cerrone. He's a wild dude. He rides bulls, this and that, and has good jiu-jitsu. He can strike. They're so similar. It's funny thinking back to when they faced off and Cowboy Cerrone got the victory. But I am a fan. I am a fan of this guy's. But again, I've been talking to some people, some of my co-experts, man, that study the fight footage just as much as I do, and some of the guys I've been talking to are quite high on this Kazakh fighter here. But watching him on tape, I can't pick him to win the fight. But I do love the fighters coming out of their neck of the woods, man. Mongolia, Kazakhstan, all these types of areas up there. These guys are warriors. These guys are coming with some real warrior blood in them, and these guys are tough. So I don't know who this is. Maybe it's his grandpa. But the lineage is, these are respectable people, man. I like what they bring to the table. But gotta take the Brazilian here, though. Gotta take the Brazilian here. That's my opinion. The line's pretty close too, so minus 155 or so for Cowboy Oliveira. Got the heavyweights throwing down, man. This is an interesting matchup here. Stefan Struve taking on Tuivasa. Both these guys, don't regularly win as of recently. Stefan Struve is a guy that was retired for some time, had some heart issues, has since made a return. I think he's even retired after he made the return, but now has been still throwing down. He's only 32 years old. I guess he feels good. He's coming off a loss against Ben Rothwell, got knocked out in that fight. Before that, he did take out Marcos Rogerio de Lima, which is a guy that flakes out time to time. And Stefan Struve is a guy, I want to run the tape back. Stefan Struve was a guy, people were so high on him. I remember when he was so young. I remember when he got finished by Roy Nelson, and Roy Nelson was like, you got to watch out when this guy is like 30 years old or 28 years old as he hits his prime. We never really saw that from Stefan Struve, though. He's had the health issues. I think that his frame, I don't know. I think that he was just he's a little bit how do you say, his frame was so big. I just think that, he has that speed disadvantage. He's a little bit like a giraffe in there at times, a newborn giraffe. He's a little, rocky with his legs. He's not so athletic and sharp with his skills, but he is talented at the same time. He's a very capable striker. He has good technique in there. He's been trained by some of the best strikers. His jiu-jitsu is very good. I mean, he has those long limbs. He can strap up triangles and all types of submissions on you. So, I mean, that's definitely there as well. Tai Tuivasa is a guy. Take a look at a young Tai over here. Look at him. Tai Tuivasa is a guy that I think that could come in a little bit more polished. Could cut some weight. Does have knockout power. You see him running the rugby ball there. He's an entertaining dude. I think he's a beast of a man. I'll never forget his UFC debut, where he showed that he's versatile on the feet as well. I believe he hit that hit him with the flying knee. He took out let's see, who was that guy again? Because that was a guy that was undefeated at the time too, but has since fell off. They were both undefeated, and that was Rashad Coulter, where he knocked him out. Yep, in his UFC debut, the flying knee, and strung off 2 victories after that. People were very high on him, and has since lost 3 in a row. And Sergey Spivak was able to recently pull off that arm triangle choke. Stefan Struve is a guy that can definitely pull off a sub like that. So this is a dangerous fight for Tai Tuivasa. I could see this fight going either way. Quite honestly, these are 2 fighters that I've been looking to fade as of the last couple of years. At the same time, I have a lot of respect for both of them, and I do enjoy watching them fight. I've been back and forth on this fight. We take a look at the line here. Stefan Struve, that's pretty much a pick 'em. Slight lean on Stefan Struve. I like Stefan Struve for the fact that I think that he's going to have the grappling advantage, the BJJ advantage there. And if this fight hits the mat, I could see him pulling off a submission. Tai Tuivasa just hasn't showed to me that he's willing to fully commit to to being a champion, or I'm not saying he would ever be a champion, but he hasn't fully committed to wanting to be a champion and to really take his career as serious as he should. Like to see him diet up a little bit. I mean, he's chugging beers out of shoes, this and that. Seems like a fun guy to hang out with, but Stefan Struve, I think, is a guy that really, really takes the game extremely serious. And I'm a big fan of his as well. And I'm going to take Stefan Struve to win this fight, but I can easily see Tai Tuivasa pulling the victory off, or knocking Stefan Struve out early in the fight, hurting him. So, but I'll take Stefan Struve, who has a 9.5-inch reach advantage, and is going to have a 9-inch height advantage. I guess if you say that's an advantage. 6'11". You don't see a lot of guys throwing down at that size. Yeah, man, I hope Struve gets it done. Now this next fight, these guys are Tony Ferguson, Khabib Nurmagomedov. Similar to that type of matchup. This is a fight that's been trying to be put together for some time. You guys know that the horrible stoppage the first time the fight happened. It was a play of mine. I had a big play on Magomed and Ankalaev. I believe it was a 5 or 6 unit play. Although he did come in as a relatively big favorite, I still felt I had to capitalize on him and make some money there, because I'm a big fan of Ankalaev. I think this guy will be fighting for a belt down the line, and quite possibly could be the upcoming champion. This guy could be one of the light heavyweight champions to come. As you guys know, there's a couple guys that I'm really high on that I've been chirping about for years now. And Ankalaev is definitely one of them. Obviously we have the fighter fighting out of Austria. Name is slipping my mind right now, but Rakic, Alexander Rakic. You guys know I'm very high on him. Ankalaev and Rakic are 2 guys that are some of the front runners, as far as I'm concerned, of the new wave of talent to eventually take over the belt, or to be fighting for the belt. Cutelaba is a very tough customer, carries power, and he'll give a lot of guys trouble. But I think Ankalaev is going to have the grappling advantage. I think Ankalaev is a little bit more polished on the feet, a little bit quicker, as we saw from what took place in the first fight. Obviously, it didn't go long, but Ankalaev was hurting him, and he was landing. I'm going to say that was a bad stoppage. Cutelaba, I believe, was playing possum, and he was rolling with punches and looking to catch Ankalaev coming in with a nasty hook or whatnot. Cutelaba is extremely tough, but I've seen Cutelaba also not look as impressive at times. And the Teixeira fight, but Teixeira is a beast. He was able to outclass him there, use some grappling. Wasn't overly impressed in the Jared Cannonier fight. That was a fight that I thought he should have been able to take Cannonier out in, but as we know, We'll be talking about Cannonier here in a minute. Cannonier is a skilled fighter. As we now know, Ankalaev was way overrated around that time, and Ankalaev is a complete fade, as I just capitalized on that. I hope you guys did this past weekend. Luis Enrique da Silva is another guy that flakes out. Khalil Roundtree, now that was a fight that was impressive. He was able to make that a dog fight, and Khalil Roundtree has been looking good. I lost some money there. I had some money on Roundtree, so I did lose that play. But Ankalaev, I think he wins this fight again. And I think there's no controversy here as long as he avoids getting clipped with something. Ankalaev should be an undefeated fighter. Just dropped the ball that one time against Paul Craig where he got triangle choked with 1 second left. What a ridiculous loss there for him. Has since went in there and just been whooping dudes up. The Dalcha knockout, that was disgusting. The front kick up the middle. The Marcin Prachnio, who's obviously not that impressive of a fighter, but still the way he went out there and took him out. Keep an eye on Ankalaev. This is a guy that could be holding it down as another Russian fighter carrying gold as they start to invade the UFC and take over. And I'm on him to win that fight. And as far as the line goes, it's actually better than it was just this recent time that before it got canceled. This line was as high as like in the minus 330s, minus 340s. So keep an eye on that. All of a sudden things have changed again. Kind of funny. But maybe you want to mix that in a parlay. Or again, Cutelaba is dangerous too. So maybe you feel that the line's a little too high. Let's see. What do you guys think, man? Comment below. How are you guys feeling on these fights? What are you guys looking for? All right, now this fight somehow snuck its way. Went to the main card. Lauren Murphy taking on the newcomer, the UFC newcomer. Fighting at a GFC. She in her last fight. The Uzbekistan fighter fighting out of Uzbekistan. How you say this name now? Liliya Shakirova, and wasn't really overly impressed from what I've seen from her. The GFC champion. I was watching some fight tape on her. A tough chick. Striking is capable. Coming off a knockout victory over there in her last fight. Had a split decision victory over this girl Maria. Lost to this girl Julia Barasova, who's 5-4. Like I said, not really overly impressed. Whereas you guys know what you're getting with Lauren Murphy. Lauren Murphy coming off the victory against Roxanne Modafferi. I was on her to win that fight. She was an underdog. Was a little surprised to see that. A lot of people were high on Modafferi around that time, but Lauren Murphy is a very strong fighter. Good takedown defense. She throws some power strikes here and there, and I think Lauren Murphy should win this fight. Like I said, just not overly impressed with what I've seen from the newcomer. And Lauren Murphy's right around minus 255. I think that's a high line for a female fight like that. And we'll see what the Uzbeki fight brings to the table. The Justin Bieber haircut. We'll see. She's a tough chick. She is a tough chick, but I think Lauren Murphy might be a little bit more talented in there. Lauren Murphy being a girl that's very, very composed and very proven and battle-ridden. So Lauren Murphy, she has some things going for herself there. All right. Creeping our way to that big main event, man. Only a couple more fights to talk about. We got Phil Hawes taking on Jacob Malkoun. Phil Hawes, we'll talk about this guy here for a minute. Phil Hawes, if you guys don't remember, this guy was a very, very highly touted prospect from back in the day. He used to put in some time over at AKA. John Jones was saying all these amazing things about him. Obviously, look how he looks. He's a freak athlete. They were talking about his striking abilities, his wrestling ability, this and that. I believe it was the Ultimate Fighter, right? I think he was trying to get on the Ultimate Fighter show, and he got knocked out by Andrew Sanchez. Andrew Sanchez is a guy that's really came around in his career, more of a grappling-based fighter who's been knocking dudes out as of recently. Andrew Sanchez got a nasty knockout there against Phil Hawes, right? Then Phil Hawes gets another opportunity on Dana White's Contender Series against Julia Marquez, another Spaniard, an American Spaniard type of fighter. Those kind of white Spanish type of fighters, right? A similar matchup. And seems like he had a problem with those types of guys, man. This guy, Julia Marquez, another guy that can knock you out, gets the knockout there. A lot of people were disappointed because, like I said, Phil Hawes has this ability. People are so highly, not highly respectful of the skills that he brings to the table. And me being one of them, man, I really wanted to see this guy make it into the UFC because I thought this is a guy that we could really see some exciting fights from moving forward. Little did we know, though, again, Andrew Sanchez and Julian Marquez they're both skilled fighters. So those are fights that you really want to see him win if he was as good as we thought that he would be. But, as eventually he won the big fight, right? Dana White's Contender Series this past season, just a couple weeks ago, right? Or however long it's been, towards the end of this last season, went in there and looked great, man. Went in there and he got the finish. And, the guy that he took out was Kadzimirat Bestayov, and he finished him, I believe that was early in that fight. And that's what we want to see from Megatron. So now he's getting a matchup against this guy, Jacob Malkoun, who's only 4-0, the Australian fighter who I've been watching on tape. He has some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. I think he's a Gracie Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu lineage type of fighter. He's capable on the feet, kind of technical, not overly imposing as far as how he looks. Phil Hawes is going to be the guy that's going to be all ripped up, jacked up, has that explosive power. Jacob Malkoun is a guy, though, that's going to be hanging in there to the end of the fight. It's a guy that could easily tag you with a shot on the chin and can knock you out, as we've seen Phil Hawes, as he's been knocked out early in his career. But again, now Hawes has strung off some victories over in Bellator. He's on a 4-fight winning streak now over at Brave MMA, and then, of course, the Contender Series. So I'm on Phil Hawes here. I think Phil Hawes gets it done. Once again, I think that he's the fighter that you would pick to win this fight. If you got to pick one of these guys, Phil Hawes is more explosive. He's more athletic. He has all the tools to really make things happen inside the octagon. But does he have a little mental lapse in there once again? Does he get caught with the shot? Did he completely clean up his game? And again, Jacob Malkoun may be one of those types of guys that, one of those tough Aussie type of guys, man. You take a look at him, he's going to be hanging around in there. This is a guy that can be beaten down for the first round or two and still keep coming and start, wearing on you, going in for takedowns himself. And maybe he clips you with the shot. So, but I'm on Phil Hawes here. And the line, right around -270. So that's maybe a fight you want to mix in a parlay or whatnot, or maybe you want to completely avoid that, or maybe you want to take Jacob Malkoun because, like I said, Hawes has dropped the ball before, and maybe he's not completely proven. 4 fights in a row, but did lose those fights I talked about. And just a quick look at Jacob over here too. Brushing shoulders with Bobby Knuckles, who we're going to be talking about here in a second. And how about that? Sparring it up with Bobby Knuckles, man. It's a legit sparring partner to have, as they both train for a big fight. Purple belt and BJJ. And I have seen him on the mat, and he looks capable. So that's going to be a good fight. Keep an eye on that fight. Could see that fight playing out, in an explosive way, one way or another. That's how Hawes' fights tend to play out. Does he get a nasty knockout, or does he get knocked out? All right. Excuse me 1 second here. All right, so still cruising through the main card. We got Alexander Volkov taking on Walt Harris. This is a big fight right here. Alexander Volkov coming off a loss against Curtis Blades. Walt Harris coming off the loss against Alistair Overeem. And, Alexander Volkov is a guy that just needs to work on his wrestling takedown defense. And this is a guy that could really strike with anybody on the feet. We've seen him put out a crazy volume. The Derek Lewis fight definitely rings a bell, even though he did drop the ball towards the end of that fight. When he's putting it together, he could really hurt guys. We saw him style on Greg Hardy. And in his last fight, though, Curtis Blades just got those takedowns continuously. And even though Alexander Volkov looked good in the 5th and final round, it was not enough to even really keep the fight close. I mean, he pretty much got dominated. Walt Harris, the big ticket, you guys know the deal with him. He's already 37 years old, but this guy is quick in there. He's athletic, and he can knock out anybody. And we saw him hurt Alistair Overeem early in that fight. But again, he does gas out at times. Walt Harris is a guy that, as the fight progresses to the later rounds, not extremely high on him there. And I think if he doesn't get an early knockout on Volkov here, I think that Volkov is going to be picking him apart in those later rounds. I think Walt Harris is a he used to play football, right? And he's that type of style of a fighter, man. He's a quick twitch. He's a sprinter, quick twitch type of fighter, man. Can knock you out or tend to slow down a little bit. We all know the story and that he had, the background of what he had going on going into his last fight. A lot of people were pulling for him, including, well, I don't want to say including me because actually I'm a big fan of Overeem and I had money on Overeem, but I wanted to see something positive kind of happen for him in a way as well, man. His story is so sad, and I'm kind of hoping that he has that moment coming up. But then again, I'm a big fan of Alexander Volkov as well, but maybe this is the fight I hope he wins. Stay tuned. We'll see if I have a bet out or whatnot on it. Maybe just rooting for Walt Harris here to get an early knockout, and he definitely can knock out Volkov. Volkov is a guy that is susceptible to being tagged, as we saw in the Derek Lewis fight, even though that was a fight that was towards the end, the last seconds of the fight, and he was exhausted and he was dropping his hands. But I could see something like that playing out as well. And yeah, but and this was the last fight, man. Volkov needs to clean up the grappling. Maybe Walt Harris goes in there with a similar game plan, get in on those hips and get some takedowns on the tall, lanky fighter. But I tend to see Volkov really just putting that volume out and teeing off on him as the fight goes to the later rounds. And Volkov is a very skilled fighter, a very technical, skilled striker. So it's an excellent matchup here. One of these guys is going to have 2 losses in a row, and it is what it is. One of these guys is going to have a big victory and get another big fight moving through the heavyweight ranks after that. Right? Yeah, and just to touch upon, they both have an 81-inch reach. So Walt Harris is a big boy too. 2-inch height advantage for Alexander Volkov. All right, we're at the co-main event. Got Bobby Knuckles taking on Jared Cannonier. Bobby Knuckles is a guy, coming off a win over Darren Till. I had him there. I had a play on him, and I was on him to win that fight. So, has recently brought in some money for me. I believe I did also have a play on him against Israel Adesanya. I think I may have a small play, a 2-unit or 3-unit, I think. So, as of the last 2 fights, I had a win and a loss with him. Of course, now we see Izzy is nasty, man. It's really starting to all come out. This is a big fight for Jared Cannonier. If he wants to work his way back to the title, he has to win this fight. Cannot afford to get another loss on his resume. And that'd be 2 losses in his last 3 fights. And Cannonier is a guy that is dangerous. Cannonier just took out Jack Hermanson. That's a big win under his resume. The Anderson Silva victory at this stage in Silva's career, I don't really hold it too high. The David Branch was a nice victory. It was a nice knockout for him. And then we're talking about some fights that he lost in the light heavyweight division. We talked about him battling Cutelaba back in the day. I mean, he was a light heavyweight fighter, right? This guy has a solid frame. He decided to trim up and really make a name for himself in the middleweight division. And I think that was definitely the right move. Again, the Hermanson victory. Hermanson is a guy that's right at the top of the division. That was a major victory. 36 years old, so the clock is ticking. He needs to win this fight as well. If he loses this fight, I'll be on record saying I don't ever see him fighting for the title. He needs to win this fight, and he needs to move forward now. Jared Cannonier is one of those types of guys. I would say he has all the skills to win these big types of fights and to be at the top of the division, but doesn't really carry that X factor to have people tuning in and wanting to watch him fight. Something about him just seems pretty bland in there. But he is a very skilled fighter. He just kind of blends in as just another guy in the roster, in my opinion. So, if he loses a fight here, he's not going to get that momentum to push his way up to a title shot. So, I think Izzy was talking about Cannonier was next in line. So obviously he needs to win this fight, and then he is next in line. He'll be fighting for the title after that. But needs to do that. And this was the Jack Hermanson knockout. Looked very good in that fight, man. He's a legit fighter. He's a legit fighter. And again, Bobby Knuckles was able to take Darren Till out. And again, I don't know why people are always so high on Darren Till. I jumped off that wagon ever since the Woodley loss. I was way off that wagon. So, I remember I think Till might have ended up being the favorite as that fight settled. I think I got Whittaker at dog odds. And Whittaker is legit. Has an unorthodox, funky type of striking style, extremely explosive and quick, and can knock anybody out. And Cannonier is a guy a little bit more technical. And Cannonier is going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. And maybe Cannonier gets a knockout. Keep an eye on that too, man. Whittaker just got knocked out a fight before his last, and yeah, man, he was that was a fight where he was going out slinging, and Izzy just sniped him. Cannonier can snipe you as well. But I'm on Bobby Knuckles. Big fan of Bobby Knuckles. As far as the line goes, it's a pick'em. It's pretty much a pick'em there. All right. Now, I want to make this a point too, man. The Umar Nurmagomedov fight was scrapped against Sergey Morozov. So that fight was scrapped. And now that is going to take us to the last fight, to the main event. And you guys know what time it is. It is Khabib Nurmagomedov taking on Justin Gaethje. Like I talked about earlier, two of the most skilled lightweight fighters to ever square off. Some of the highest level of talent we've ever seen face off inside the octagon. Justin Gaethje, Justin Gaethje is a guy I've been watching since the World Series of Fighting. Oh, I guess that promotion's now the PFL, and this was a guy I remember watching way back in the day. I'll pull up the fight where I really started to take note of him. And I was like, man, this guy's going to be legit. He needs to make his way over to the UFC. Obviously, he just kept putting on entertaining fight after entertaining fight. And I think the fight that I really started to really start to pay attention to this guy was might have been the Brian Cobb fight. I think it was a Brian Cobb fight. No, actually, it was probably the Cavalcante fight. I remember even seeing him fight Cavalcante. I mean, this is I was big into WSOF back in the day too. And Dan Lozon fight, and people were all thinking Lozon was going to win that fight. He had the last name. Remember watching that fight live? That was the Berkman versus Carl fight. Steve Carl. I don't know if you guys remember him, ex-UFC fighter as well. And, the real fans know what I'm talking about. But, of course, then getting these bigger name fights, people started to catch on to Gaethje. He was so entertaining. The Nick Newell fight, the Melvin Gillard fight, Luis Palomino fight. This is a cousin of the guy that we had on the show recently. Luis Palomino is a stud of a fighter. Carries power. These fights were so entertaining, and he was able to stop Palomino twice, which is such a big deal, man. Such a tough fighter, and Luis Palomino, who's very well-rounded and can strike with the best of them. The Brian Foster fight, he stopped him with the leg kicks. This is where he was just finishing these dudes every time, man. Going in there, finishing these guys, jumping off the octagon, doing backflips. I'm like, will we ever see this guy fight in the octagon, right? He finally gets that big UFC debut against Michael Johnson. I remember being so excited to see that fight. And for those of you guys that saw that fight live, you guys remember how crazy that fight was. Michael Johnson hurt him at times. And that's what Gaethje used to do, man. He would put himself in these situations where you could hurt him, but he always knew that he would just fight through it and eventually take you out. Now, he made that mistake. Of course, he did take out Michael Johnson in spectacular fashion in the second round. Now, he made that mistake moving forward with fighting Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier. Those guys were just a little bit too polished to put yourself out there on a limb. Those guys capitalized on that. And then he faced off against James Vick. Now, you guys remember what happened with the James Vick fight. James Vick was starting to call Gaethje the Homer Simpson of MMA. Boy, did that backfire on him. He since made James Vick the Homer Simpson of MMA. James Vick cannot make it past the first, second round. The guy is a Pez dispenser out there getting teed off on. Like I'm out on the ninth hole, teeing off on a par 5. You know what I mean? Like this guy's neck's just sitting there, and guys are teeing off on him, getting knocked out in all types of ways. And that's when Gaethje really started to put it together. We saw him in the Barboza fight, closing the distance. Finished Barboza with the nasty hook, the right hook. His boxing's coming around. Training with one of the best striking coaches in the game over there in Colorado. One of the best fight camps in the game. Took out Donald Cerrone with ease. And then the Tony Ferguson fight happens where he just really puts it all together and puts on an absolute clinic against Tony Ferguson. We've never seen Tony Ferguson beat down like that. We knew Tony Ferguson had holes in his striking and in his boxing, but with what Gaethje did that night, his stock went so high up in my books and with a lot of you guys, as I know a lot of people are on Gaethje as well. I'm going to say as well because I'm on Gaethje here. Gaethje, the ex-Division 1 wrestler, has amazing wrestling credentials. You don't see people take Gaethje down and control him. I'm going to say that Khabib can't consistently do that for this fight, and this fight will take place in the feet for a little bit. The leg kicks of Gaethje are so nasty. The boxing is going to be better than Khabib's here, in my opinion. And stylistically, I think that he's going to give Khabib a real run for his money. And that's why I'm taking Justin Gaethje to win this fight. Khabib Nurmagomedov, you guys know the deal with him. Going out there, taking out guys like Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor. I just think that Gaethje is a better wrestler and has better takedown defense than those guys, and that's going to be the key to taking out Khabib. If we're ever going to see somebody take Khabib out, you got to have that background in wrestling where you could give him a run for your money, for his money. Maybe a guy like Michael Chandler can also stuff those takedowns. You got to have a very high caliber type of grappling. Poirier does. Poirier is a great Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, but he doesn't have the real wrestling credentials, man. He hasn't been wrestling his entire life. He got into MMA as a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, and I think you have to be a fighter that's been grappling since you've been a kid, like a Gaethje. Khabib's been grappling with bears since he's a little kid. He has that crazy Dagestani type of grappling where he picks you up and slams you down. You need to combat that with your own wrestling credentials, and Gaethje has more of those American wrestling credentials, and I think those can match up with those Dagestani Sambo wrestling type of credentials, and that's why I'm taking Justin Gaethje, man. Gaethje is a beast. Watch the leg kicks and the crisp boxing of Gaethje to come in and maybe spoil the party. But again, I'll say this: I think Khabib is the greatest lightweight of all time. The undefeated fighter, 28-0, going for 29-0. When have we ever seen something done like that? And yeah, I think that this is gonna be a hell of a fight. And yeah, look at this. What my mom thinks a dangerous man looks like versus what a dangerous man really looks like. If that ain't the truth, right? People that actually know about fighting, we know that, man. A lot of nasty jiu-jitsu practitioners are like that as well, too, right? People don't realize how dangerous some of those nerd-looking type of dudes are. But, one thing I want to say again, too, I want to reiterate, Gaethje's camp over there in Colorado is nasty. It is nasty. Team Elevation. We know Usman even was over there for a little bit. And what a nasty team. And what else can I say about this fight? Khabib is the truth as well. I definitely got to say that. So Khabib is the truth. That's why I'm so excited for this fight, and I know you guys are just as excited. Obviously Khabib is dealing with his brother's situation. His brother ain't gonna fight, but Khabib is so mentally tough, and he is coming off the loss of his father, the first fight since his father was has passed on. If you guys want to see a cool post, check out this video here. It's pretty touching, man. Cool video. And this is a fight that we're all going to be tuned into. I would love to watch it with you guys. Join me over here on the Fight Companion. I'm going to have a lot of plays locked in for this card. I'm letting you guys know that right now. I'm going to have a lot of plays locked in for this card. You guys know how it is, man. I break down each of these fights individually for you here, but there's specific plays that you have to be targeting. You gotta weigh out the risk versus reward factor and snipe out those right possibilities to make some legit money on the night. I may have 4 fights locked in for this card. I gotta make some final decisions here. Might be 3 or 4 fights, and it will be another profitable event for the teller. Mark my words on that. I'm telling you right now, there's certain events that come around where I know what's going on, and I will string off another profitable event. The money has been coming in. You guys can reach out to me if you want to work with me on Instagram, MMA Fortune Teller _, Twitter, The MMA Teller. My email, MMAFortuneTeller@gmail.com. You guys can reach out to me for any type of work-related type stuff. If you guys want me to promote any of your guys' brands or this and that, reach out to me. And if you guys want me to feature on any of your type of stuff, man, I'm always willing. I'm going to start expanding what I'm doing out here. I want to start featuring on a lot of different types of content that's out here on the web. And like I said, continuously stay tuned. The show will be being groomed up more and more. We have a new studio being worked on that will be eventually happening down the road. New equipment's coming in. And I appreciate every single one of you guys. You guys always know that. And I hope you guys all enjoy the fights. For those of you guys that are going to be watching it, wherever you guys are, if you're not with me for the Fight Companion. And you guys all have a great rest of your week. My week has been great. And make sure you guys are all making the best of your guys' lives, all right? On that note, I'll sign out. Signing out. Teller.
The MMA Fortune Teller.
The teller.